Hello and welcome to Gettable, AFL.com.au's home of trade, draft, frenzy and contract news. We are here thanks to Google. A big thanks to our friends at Google for their continued support. We've got a bumper show on the cards for you today. The wall of trades is back. More than 40 names. We will run through them all. Where are they going? Before we get to that though, don't forget you can follow us on Instagram. There it is right there at Gettable. The close friends list is going off. Keep commenting on our posts. You might get yourself onto the close friends list. It is going off. The trade period's a couple of weeks away from kicking off as well, but it has been going right the way throughout the year. And the biggest name in the game right now is Zach Merrett. That's where we find Twomey.
G'day Riley, good to be here. Zach Merrett, this is getting ugly, this is messy, it's personal, it's everything that was going to happen the moment that Zach Merrett met with the Hawks. So Essendon needs to work out the best way out of this situation. Yeah. For me, the worst case scenario is that he just returns to the footy club. There's a lot of best case scenarios though out of this situation as well. Find a way to get some multiple picks and good young players into your footy club and feel like the fallback is that the guy returns, he's just not captain. Yeah. And he's going to return and play well if it doesn't go through. So Merrett only wants to go to Hawthorn. There is no backup, there is no plan B. We spoke on Sunday in a column on Sunday that Adelaide has interest in Zach Merrett. St Kilda, Melbourne, other clubs looking at the midfield market, but Merrett only wants the Hawks, and the Hawks are all in on him as well. So this is what I would do if I'm Essendon. I'd be getting ultra aggressive now. Zach tested the market. They should as well. They should be mature enough as a footy club. If he's mature enough and we're mature enough as an industry for him to be meeting with an opposite coach, then the other club should be mature enough to go and target other players and say, can we get in on this and involve a third or fourth club? If it's going to be Hawthorn, it's not going to be a direct swap. So we can stop looking at the ex-players from here to that club to make this deal happen. They should be dropping monster contracts all over the competition. It doesn't mean that you have to commit to every one of them. Be the disruptors and don't be conservative around this.
Do you think they're already doing that?
Well, I think they'd be getting proactive. You have to be getting proactive around it. And traditionally, Essendon's been pretty conservative on the long-term contract front and also on the money front. It hasn't been their way of doing things, but there's no point being the richest guy in the cemetery. So there's no point having the salary cap space and not using it. So even this year, Harley Reid, the option there for Harley. Where's the money pin? Yeah, sorry. There you go. They weren't going to be in the Harley Reid chase because they weren't putting in the offer for him. So did they throw 3 first-round picks at Port Adelaide for Zach Butters? It's not going to shift Port Adelaide, but get into it. Do they have a crack at Joel Frazier, Jed Walter, these young players who are up and coming? Which under-24 players can they try and rip out of another club by virtue of Zach Merrett and the picks that they might get for him? So be aggressive.
I like it because I don't think there's any point in Essendon going to the draft with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever the picks are. They need players to come through the door to help kickstart this rebuild. So I like it. Have you ever seen a situation like this before, though, where so many bridges appear to have been burned that it almost feels like it's untenable for him to come back?
I'm not a fan of the untenable thing. I think the untenable is overrated. And it's a media thing. That's not a club thing. Untenable, he can go back and play.
There's a lot of reintegration work that'll have to happen though if he goes back.
No, the reintegration is if the deal's not done, we'll see you on November 20. Yeah. Well, I don't think there's an alternative, is there? Get the deal done or you stay or you don't play for a year. Ultimately, right here, right now, right here, right now, if I was tipping it, I'd see him at Hawthorn next year. Okay. Because it's over to them to get the deal done. But at this point, if I'm Essendon, I'm getting aggressive. I'm going to Hawthorn players. I'm going to players all around the competition and saying, here's an 8-year deal. Here's 1.3 on it. Here's one of the biggest deals in our footy club's history. Do you want to come be a part of the rebuild?
Okay, I like it. We might do right here, right now a few times throughout the course of this show. What about Jordan Ridley? Speaking of Bombers that want out, where do you see his future?
Well, has met with Brisbane, also met with the Bombers' new high-performance boss, Matt Innes, last week before he headed to overseas. So has remained around the hangar as well during his recovery. So I think the Merrett situation makes it harder for Jordan Ridley to move, personally. Okay. I think if Merrett goes, it's hard to see him going, and 4 years to go versus 2. He wants to go. I don't know if they open the door there. Okay.
Campbell Chesser, we know he has requested a trade to Carlton. Yep. How do you see this one getting done, though? Because 36 games over 4 seasons. What do you reckon the Eagles hold out for?
It's a hard one, isn't it? A pick around the 40 mark, probably.
Well, they got 34 and 44. I reckon one of those probably gets it done.
Probably a debate over 34 versus 44 and probably ends up 34, pushed back a few spots. Yep. Just on the Eagles and Blues, Jack Ricciardi has been linked to Carlton, but that won't be happening. There's no interest there from their end. So they've already got their speed in Campbell Chesser locked and loaded, as do the Crows with Cal Archie. I think we should just block out this one for the last half-an-hour trade period. We may as well just put a pause on everything until then, because this has got last day written all over it. He's keen to get to Adelaide. I expected we'll see a trade request as soon as Brisbane season finishes. And now I think if you're Brisbane, you're almost budgeting on him moving, given they've got Draper, Allen, and maybe Jordan Ridley coming on board.
I don't like if we're blocking out the last half hour of the trade period for just one player, because I reckon there might be a few in that boat this year. James Warple, we think he's heading to Geelong now. He's got the 4-year frenzy offer from the Cats. Also has a 4-year deal on the table from the Hawks, but can only see that going one way. He is heading to the Cats.
Going out in style, though, playing some good footy, as is Jamie Elliott, as he has throughout the whole year. Has a 2-year deal in front of him from Collingwood. Gold Coast has remained watchful, I would say, on this one.
Like it.
It's still very odd to me that he hasn't committed to Collingwood if this deep into the season. Look, there's still been some negotiating, clearly. I think if the deal was more favourable to him earlier on in the year, he probably would have signed, but that's opened the door to other ones to get involved in this argument and chase for Jamie Elliott as a free agent.
Like that from you, Cal. All right, now it's time for Searchable, brought to you by Google, where we will be using Google's trending search data to throw a question at Cal each and every week. And Cal, the AFL Grand Final is on the horizon. The pre-game entertainment is always a big talking point. I know it's one of your favourites. There's you with Katie.
She liked my haircut.
You've been interviewing the big performers every year for a long time now. So I want to know, Cal, who do you think is the most searched for out of these three in the last 3 years? Kiss, Robbie Williams, there they are, or Katy Perry? Still one of the greats in the division.
That is good. I haven't seen that in a while. What do you reckon?
There we go.
I would say it'd have to be Robbie, my man.
Surely
it has to be Robbie.
All right, Google, what do you got for us? Where is it? Katy Perry, Cal. Kiss it. Robbie Williams number 3.
US. He never broke the US.
Yeah, okay.
I did see. I actually gave a fist bump to Robbie the other week in Sweden. He looked at me like I remember that interview you did a few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you got for Snoop?
Weighing that up. You got any ideas? Open to feedback on what I should ask Snoop Dogg next week.
You know, my underrated hidden talent is that I can rap the entire Snoop Dogg menu log song from start to finish. I'll maybe later. Sam Butler, what's going on with him?
Well, Josh Gablich reported last week in Inside Trading that he has a 2-year offer from him from the Hawks.
Yep.
But also lots of interest from West Coast as well. Great final series though. It's hard to see him jumping ship, I would have thought, now that they've got that offer in front of him.
Missed so long, came back from the finals, 3 goals in 2 games. All right, speaking of Searchable, we've put out the request to our audience on Instagram and they've come back with a couple. Tommy wants to know, speaking of the Eagles and their interest in Sam Butler, who do they take with their top selections this year?
For me, it's clear. It's Willem Dersma and Cooper Duff-Tytler. I think those two should get used to the idea of going to West Coast. They should be learning how to speak West Australian, because they've separated themselves as the best in the draft for me in the open pool. And I think those are the guys that there's a gap now between those two and the rest. So granted, the Eagles get that pick 2 for Oscar Allen. I think it's Duffma for those 2 guys.
And speaking again of the Eagles, another Searchable question from James. What assistance does the AFL give them next week?
Well, they've asked for different bits and pieces across the last few weeks. Part of their proposal for the extra rookie spots, as many as 4 more, is to be able to list academy players, but also add experience through that part of their list as well. And I think at least they'd get that. I expect that to be the case. Perhaps a pick as well that they could move to land Brandon Starcevic as part of a deal too. Just look back in 2019-2020, Gold Coast in its big assistance package in 2019 was able to pre-list academy players without actually having to match bids.
Right.
So that was Connor Budrick, Alex Davies, Joel Jeffrey. Those 3 all played in their final series over the last couple of weeks. So the Eagles have Tyler Williams, who some clubs have as a top 30 pick. So maybe that's another angle that they've taken here to see if they can land them that way without the bidding process. But all will be decided on Monday as part of the commission meeting.
Let's get back to the wall of trades and
Cal
Wilkie. I think he stays at St Kilda, but still yet to inform the Western Bulldogs as to whether or not he will pursue their offer. I mean, he's got that 4-year deal worth over $1 million per season, as we revealed on AFL.com.au from the Western Bulldogs. But I think the general consensus from the competition, right here, right now, is the Cal Wilkie playing St Kilda next year.
I agree. I don't see them opening the door to him. Wade Dirksen, right here, right now, he's going to Melbourne. Just a matter of how he gets there, but that'll happen. Malcolm Roses revealed on earlier this week that he's seeking a trade officially after his exit meeting with the Suns on Tuesday. Richmond and Sydney lead the pack of chasing clubs. Other clubs have met him and spoken to him, but I think it's those 2 that will be looking most favourable to land him. as a low-cost small forward. This has been on the cards throughout the year.
Yep.
He will leave with the Suns' blessing to get opportunities. Richmond has gone pretty hard across the year. Michael Whiting reported that, of course, a few months ago. So right in the mix there.
Ned Reeves, big photo for a big man. Carlton and Collingwood have had interest throughout the year. Do you see him staying at Hawthorn on a longer-term deal?
Yeah, I do. Has the offer for several more years to his contract beyond 2026 on the table at Hawthorn. The Hawks keen to lock him in, and he's keen to stay. So I expect him to sign that deal. That would also give control to the club down the track, and him some security as well within this ruck market. So rucks move all the time in contract. It just means that he has the security to lock that in. So I expect that to be the case.
Hey, we spoke about the Bombers getting aggressive for Zach Merritt before. They've got aggressive for this man, as you revealed a couple of weeks ago, in Zach Bailey.
Yeah,
he's now the hottest pre-agent in the game, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He is. And look, do they come again a little bit harder now? Because that decision to go after him with that 6 to 7 year deal at $1.2, $1.3 million, that was there before it became clear what happens with Zach Merritt and his want to get to Hawthorn. So now does he become a more live option for them to throw something out this year? That's what I'd be doing. That's what I'd be being aggressive in doing from their point of view. I like that move. In saying that, Essendon's going to be a hard sell to players in the peak period of their career, and he is a superstar. So they're not going to be the only club with 7 to 8 years at 1.3 plus on the table.
Liam Reedy, we know he has requested trade to Carlton. He's uncontracted at Fremantle, played 3 games in 3 seasons. See that one being an easy one to get done?
Yes.
Yep, so do I. All right, another searchable question. Steve wants to know, will there be much draft order movement right throughout the trade period?
Well, let's look at the top 10 here as it stands. This is pre-compensation picks coming in. So we have West Coast and Richmond, Essendon, Gold Coast, St Kilda, Hawthorn, Sydney and the Western Bulldogs. What I want to put on the radar today is that the Carlton compensation pick for Tom De Koning will be at number 9. That'll be shuffled down to number 10 after the Oscar Allen pick comes in. Maybe even number 11 if the Sam Draper pick ends up at pick 6. But that Carlton first round pick now is on the table. It's up for sale. The Blues have told multiple clubs that are open to offers for that selection, to either push back for multi-picks for extra points for Harry Dean, or even to push back and get something into next year so they can match the bid for Cody Walker. So the for sale sign is up. And with Gold Coast having to match those very early picks and going pretty well throughout their final series, the Collingwood pick ending up pretty late as well, this might be the best chance that clubs get in as early as they can. So that pick is up for grabs.
So do you think the Suns retain that pick now to potentially match bids for Ezekiel and
I think
Bill
they have to think about that, yeah. And the other part to that is, though, and we'll get to Sam Flanders in a second, if they get a pick in for Sam Flanders in that top 10 or 11, do they try and bundle those picks up to one of the Richmond picks?
Yeah.
That's a possibility, and even get ahead of one of the bids. So they're all opportunities there, but we'll see movement in that top rung of the draft.
Hey, we're about to get to some Melbourne players, but speaking of Melbourne, that's where we find our cover story this week, because there you go, Cal, the King's Reach. You were very proud of that one.
The King's Reach. Why Stephen King is already on the job ahead of Melbourne's trade period. The wall of trades, the sign-on bonus. We're about to get the AFL considering a radical free agency fix, and meet the Flight Club. That's coming soon as well. Why superstars are wanting out. Let's get to the Demons though, because Clayton Oliver, I don't think there's a mark of him at this stage with his money and his contract on his head. So if it moves late. Charlie Spargo, he's moved early. He's going to North Melbourne as an unrestricted free agent. The compensation for him could be as at that end of second round point. So it's a 3-year deal. He's at the younger age of the free agency market. So that might come through to be a reasonable pick for the Demons. Obviously bid him farewell last week.
So he's going to the Kangas. A couple of Kangas here as well. Zane Dersma.
Yeah, Zane Dersma is a really fascinating one for me. He's interested in a move from North Melbourne, but North Melbourne hasn't opened the door at all for a trade. So I'm still keeping an eye on it to see if a club does try and wedge it open a little bit harder during the trade period. And Essendon, particularly now with the hand that they might offer up one of those selections and see if the Roos consider it, but they haven't been considering it. And he hasn't demanded a trade as yet, but he's communicated to the Roos that this year didn't go to plan, and that he wants to see a little bit more progress, particularly next year, and wasn't wrapped with this season. What
about Jai Simpkin, another captain? It's unprecedented the amount of captains that are looking to move at the moment. He's exploring his options as well after a season spent playing on half forward and across the wing. Yeah, 4 years to go left on his deal as well, and North Melbourne looking at Marcus Windhager to add to their midfield too. So it's tough to get into that midfield given the star quality there. Look, Richmond always had a little bit of interest after he had some links there as an under-18, but I don't think that'd be the case now. He knows it'll be a challenge for him to find a new home, given the price, given the contract, given the role, but he's wanted to have a look regardless. Yeah. What about Judd McVeigh, speaking of the D's as well? He's got the 2-year deal on the table from Melbourne. Do you expect him to sign it now? Stephen King is at the club?
Well, that's an important part. I think Stephen King, one of his first to-do items is catching up with Judd McVie, and as he weighs up this decision, has wanted to find out who the coach is, what his plan is for him. So that'll be very much something that Stephen King gets to ASAP. Look, it's been a weird one for me to follow, to be honest, because he hasn't been that keen on going back to West Australia. Adelaide's not into it. He just hasn't wanted to sign there. So I think he's wanted to see and get some direction from the coach, and hopefully that for him comes and he can sign pretty soon at the D's.
All right, we're at the halfway point. That's where you can find another Instagram promo from us. There we go, at Gettable. That's the best one. And Cal, you want to chat through a couple of things?
Well, this is the Fly Club.
There we go.
This is the Fly Club. Look at Gettable there. The Fly Club has happened. I want to talk about the Fly Club in trade terms. This is the exit row. So we've got Zach Merritt, as we spoke about before. We're about to get to Christian Petrarca and Charlie Curnow as well. These are the big guns who want out and are open to moving and trying to get out of their clubs. This is the Fly Club. They're taking flight, but can they get out? I'd be up the back. I sit up the back.
We all row 1A.
No, I've never been row 1A. No, always turn right, never left.
All right, let's get to Sam Flanders, because you mentioned him before. He's an intriguing one now. He expressed an openness to leave Gold Coast as part of his exit meeting earlier this week. Got 2 years to run on the deal, but you wonder with the amount of academy kids they've got through whether or not the Gold Coast Suns can benefit from this as well.
Absolutely. So St Kilda, Melbourne, Carlton and Essendon. I believe he'll meet with all 4 of those clubs next week as part of this process. So already had communication with Stephen King as well, who's obviously his former assistant coach, former head coach at the Suns for a short period there, and played some great footy with him at the Gold Coast. Look, the Suns will get a first-round pick out of this, and they want to secure up to 6 academy players this year. So there's a lot of movement to be done to do that, and I think this is the way to keep replenishing that group. You can see where he's a good asset. He's young enough to be getting good trade collateral. 2 years off free agency. He's on the move. He's going to be in Victoria next year. It's just about which one has the best option for him.
Where will Brendan Starcevic be next year as a free agent?
I've wanted this all year. What do you think? He's been keen to take his time.
Yeah. Well, clearly, because he hasn't made a decision yet. We're in the prelim final week. It's another one. It's an interesting one in the sense that West Coast have obviously been keen. North Melbourne and Essendon have had some interest, but I've got no idea at the moment.
No, I think he hasn't still made up his mind, and there's also some shenanigans being played, I think, around the Brisbane and West Coast, the Compo, the Oscar Allen, all this type of thing that can happen when there's got free agents going back and forward potentially. So he's caught up in the middle of that. I think it's more likely, if you're looking at it, objectively, that in preliminary final week, the free agent who hasn't signed is probably moving.
Yeah.
But he's done things differently.
One of the great night spots in Darwin. Shenanigans. There we go.
Haven't
Right,
been
another searchable question. Alison wants to know, where do things sit with the father-son and academy bidding changes at the moment?
Well, obviously the feedback has been thick and fast.
Yes, it has.
If you've followed my Twitter feed over the last couple of weeks, that's been absolutely clear from the clubs not keen on the draft lockout. So clubs are getting a sense over the past week or so that the appetite for a draft lockout might have cooled somewhat. So the AFL still need to put forward its submission to the Commission. And that could happen Monday, or it could even happen down the track a little bit after the trade period. So I think clubs, if it happens down the track, will be given the buyer beware sign that, hey, whatever happens in this trade period, we're giving you some warning that things might change for next year and beyond. The sense has been that the points value of the top picks could be jacked up, so that matching a bid inside the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, you would have to use 2 top 12 picks essentially to get it done. So it becomes very, very difficult. For clubs to be able to do that. If you really want something, you have to pay really high to do it. Or if you pick 18 in a premiership team and you have a top 3 guy to match, you might find it impossible unless you trade out a player to get an early pick. So fairer value is being placed on it. That's the sense of clubs of this. This is all part of the things, of course, that the AFL is looking at as part of these changes to the bidding and also free agency system. Part of that I can say today is that the AFL is considering a radical move to bring in sign-on bonuses for free agents who join bottom 4 or bottom 6 clubs. So an encouragement for those players to move to clubs that traditionally haven't been able to get these restricted or unrestricted free agents. So essentially it would mean that the clubs that in the lower reaches of the table could dip into extra salary cap space to be able to spend on attracting these free agents and pay them more to encourage them to move. So there is concern, of course, that the best free agents don't go to the worst teams. I think there's been 3 or 4 restricted free agents over the course of free agency history since 2012 to go to bottom 6 teams on the ladder since it started in 2012. So that's not many. And this would be something that the AFL is considering, that sign-on bonus to allow clubs to be able to land these guys.
So where does that money pull from?
Well, it's just extra salary cap space.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, in this space. So it allows those bottom 4 clubs and bottom 6 teams, potentially, this is something that the AFL is throwing up, to be able to land these guys.
Speaking of extra salary cap space, you haven't pig purchased in a while.
No,
Why don't you get you fired up about it?
I don't.
Right, let's move on.
Don't.
Jack Buller, uncontracted at Sydney, but has the interest from Collingwood. Yet to request a trade. Yet to request a trade from the Swans, though. This is an interesting one in the sense that the Pies, I think, they clearly want to get younger at both ends of the field.
Yet to, but will. He's going to request a trade, is my expectation, to Collingwood. From Sydney, has a 2-year offer on the table there, has met with them in recent days. Charlie Gardner is the link there, having been at the Swans, now at the Pies. I think it also points to the fact that we're about to get to Brody Mychek. Is he out the door and is he the replacement?
Yeah, okay. What about Dev Robertson?
Well, West Coast has been linked to him for years. He nearly went there after the grand final a couple of years ago. I still think they're in the mix for him for some midfield depth. Victorian clubs have also looked at him, but out of contract at the Lions this year, a move would be pretty easy. I think he is a good chance to land at the Eagles at some shape or form. Speaking of the Eagles, Liam Ryan is out the door. He's going to St Kilda. Braden Fiorini is still weighing this up. So we spoke last week about the 2 clubs that are into him. Port Adelaide and Essendon have 3 years on the tables. Gold Coast has 2. He has a decision to make there.
He certainly does. Will Brody, he will be going to Port Adelaide, though. You reckon that's a pretty easy one to get done from Fremantle, already requested the trade. Marcus Wintaker, still no call from him. Yeah.
No, he's been overseas, so Melbourne's pushing hard for him. North Melbourne is pushing hard for him as well. The Bombers have been linked to. The Saints deal is in front of him. He's given them every chance to get the deal to the level he's happy with, but the Demons and Roos are absolutely keen to get him to their clubs as well. So I think we see some movement over the next week or so.
Okay. Buku Khamis has the interest from Carlton. Interesting one with the Western Bulldogs as well, because they're still in the VFL final series and they're playing in the grand final. Hasn't had his exit interview yet, as he's still being part of that pre-agent ahead of 2026. I think this one's shaping up to get done. Carlton, as we mentioned before, 34 and 44. I think he does at the moment with one of those 2 picks. What about Stephen May, speaking of the Ds?
Well, he's contracted for next year. I think would be open to options if another club came to him with multiple years on the table. Clubs have made inquiries and are viewing him as a watch this space over the next 6 weeks or so. So that's a watch for Stephen May and the Demons. Connor Budrick, you mentioned him a couple of weeks ago, has another suitor from last week.
Brisbane has been a suitor of his for a while now. The Western Bulldogs, as we've mentioned, has the contract offer on the table from the Gold Coast, though. So that's going to be a really interesting one now in the sense that the interest in Connor Budrick is really ramping up. Max Heath gets to Melbourne.
Lock it in.
Lock that one in. What about Sam Draper? You reported on afl.com.au last night. He has now nominated a club, Kel. It's been going one direction for a while.
Yep, Harry Styles saw this one coming. He's going to Brisbane as an unrestricted free agent, so lock that one in, as you say. Now the weight is just on the compensation pick. It's going to be tight. It's going to be tight if it's pick 6 or pick 21. I don't know which way it goes, but it's going to be tight on that one. And the Bombers clearly will be hoping that's at the top end because that gives them more flex.
Brody Mychek has the 1-year deal on the table from Collingwood, yet to sign it heading into that preliminary final. I think clubs now believe that if he's not at the Pies next year, he will be at Melbourne. They lead a pack of clubs who have been chasing him for a while. It's a fascinating one, this one, for me, because he's going to be, 33 by the start of next season. How long is the contract? If he does either get extended out further at Collingwood or sign at Melbourne, he's Tasmanian. You'd have to think he might be in their window as well as a potential 1-year option towards the back end of a career, the likes of we've seen with like Luke Power and Chad Corns and those types. So that's a fascinating one for me as well.
Just on Draper as well, I forgot to say, compensation banding. Jack Silvani is going to be close as well, but given his age, I firmly expect that to be end of first round rather than first round. So Jack Silvani would have to buck every trend of free agency compensation over the course of 13 years for that to be a first round pick, and I don't see it happening. So end of first round looking likely for that one. Rowan Marshall, different space altogether, contracted for another 2 seasons. He wants to go to Geelong. How much did Geelong want him, and what are they prepared to pay him from a trade perspective, from a St Kilda point of view, to get this done, and how open can St Kilda be to doing that in terms of everything else they've got going on as well? So, I think worst case, you just stay and sort it out and see if it works for TDK and Marshall together as a duo, particularly given Max King hasn't played this year. That's the challenge, I think, for St Kilda as you're weighing this up. If Max King had played a full year, it might have made it easier to move Marshall on.
Yeah, exactly, and with the concerns around his body. Jordan Butts, contracted at Adelaide, but has interest. Clearly, Adelaide's going to want to hold him to that contract, or they're going to want something good if he is to leave the football club. I'm watching the Western Bulldogs here, particularly if things go a certain way with Cal Wilkie and the way that we think they're going to go.
All right.
Charlie Curnow.
Yeah, we're back to the Fight Club. These are the 2 that are part of this exit row strategy. So Charlie Curnow still desperate to move to one of Sydney, Gold Coast or Geelong. All of those clubs are working out now if and how they can get it done. It's not through a lack of effort yet, but the watch is still on to see if the Suns, now that they got bundled out of the finals, if their key forwards who are 20-odd are ready to take the next step for them, or how patient Damien Hardwick is around his future, and whether they're really only one piece away from being a premiership team. So there's going to be some strong offers thrown at Carlton for Curnow. Right here, right now, what are you saying on Charlie Curnow?
Right now.
I still think he stays because I think, as I said, they've been so adamant on top liners only. Top liners are hard to come by. And you look at, I know Sydney's got their list of untouchables. Charlie Curnow would be in a list of untouchables for Carlton. So do you have to trade an untouchable to get an untouchable? That's what I wonder.
Yeah, I'm not as sure. I think that there's going to be some good offers thrown at them. It's just you don't throw your best offers or best punches a month out from the deadline.
Does he need to nominate a club? Will that make it easier for him to facilitate a trade rather than dealing with 3 right through the trade period?
He has to get a club then that is willing to offer something and has the cards to do it.
I wonder if this one as well is one there, and we see this a lot of times in overseas sports like the Premier League and the NBA and the NFL, where a deadline gets set before the deadline. You have to let me know before day one of the trade period exactly where you're going, so we can then work out with that club where you're going.
I think clubs move now. The clubs are agile. They have salary cap space. They have enough picks now to do the extra hand of picks that things happen on the fly, and that's what you have to be ready for. Speaking of the last member of the Flight Club, I mean, first mover's advantage goes to Zach Merritt on the Hawks because while Zach Merritt's out there in front of Sam Mitchell getting on the front foot. Christian Petrarca probably wanted to do this more in the background this year. He looked at Hawthorn as a possible destination, but the Merritt move put him back in the pecking order, and they wouldn't be able to financially or from a trade point of view afford both. So I've been saying for weeks that this now should happen. It's a split that should happen. Every good rom-com has its breakup scene, and it's been a great rom-com between Melbourne and Christian Petrarca, but I think the scene now is here. And Adelaide will look at it, as spoke about this on Sunday as well. Adelaide will look at him. Gold Coast has considered and looked at Christian Petrarca over the past couple of years. He wasn't keen on a move there last year. I think if he was, then Gold Coast would have been right in it when they had some picks to play with at the top end of the draft. But I think he needs and would be open to getting out. I think it's a good opportunity for Melbourne too, without a pick in this year's draft, with a first-time coach to start over and get some good bang for buck at the moment. So other suitors will emerge, but they're a couple of members of the Flight Club.
But right here, right now, who's he playing for in 2026?
Right now.
Not Melbourne.
Where? I'm going to say Adelaide. There's my tip.
We'll see.
Right, let's go back to the middle, Carl. That was a great episode of Gettable. How many names we got? Around 40, I reckon. Don't forget.
Remember to follow us on
There we go.
Instagram.
Follow us on Instagram. There it is, right there.
And remember, of course, that was the Flight Club.
Do it again.
Here it is.
It's a bit like The Simpsons to
I feel
start
like
with.
Ken Hinkley. Yeah, it is a bit like The Simpsons. Gettable air.
All right, we love it. Massive episode of Gettable. It's going to come right
We've
through.
racked up a lot of velocity points on Gettable there.
We certainly have. We're going to be on Trade Radio over the course of the next month, so stay tuned for more updates there. We're on afl.com.au all the time. That's where you can find inside trading on Wednesday night. That's where you can always find Gettable. We'll see you next week.